Buenos dias, me llamo Giovanni, and today I'm going to be talking about the two Netflix series that I saw. I only saw the first episodes of each, um, though there's a high chance I might continue watching them, or at least one of them. It's very interesting because the one I wasn't expecting to like is the one that I liked, and the one that I was expecting to like, I think it's pretty good, but it didn't catch me as much as the other. I saw Siempre Bruja, and then I don't know if it's pronounced El Marginal or El Marginal. Um, but basically, Siempre Bruja is about a witch that basically made a deal with a warlock to have a task for him that required her to teleport to the future so she could teleport into the past afterwards to save her beloved that died. Um, and then El Marginal is basically about a cop or an ex-cop. I don't know, because there's a part where they showed before he got hired, he was already in a kind of jail. So I'm guessing he's an ex-cop that got hired by a judge in order to find the judge's daughter who got kidnapped by people in another prison. I gravitated towards Siempre Bruja because I generally like the fantasy theme overall, and in my family, my grandmother very much considered herself a bruja, though she probably wouldn't use that terms, but just to be vague about it, that's she believed in mysticism and ghosts and psychics. So I was interested in like how that would go about, and then I saw El Marginale or Marginal. I don't know why I said Marginale. Um, just because it's like the only one that I could really find on Netflix without having like a weird English translated name that made it overly complicated to find. Um, so Cameron, which I believe is the name of the girl in Siempre Bruja, she's a pretty good actress. I liked her a lot. Um, I like that she was aware that she was in a different time period beforehand, and we didn't have that cliche thing that's in every time travel movie where the character out of time is like either doing weird things that they did in the past or doesn't understand the concept of things in the future. So there's that weird, awkward moment where they're like doing something bizarre and everyone's staring at them, and you get that secondhand embarrassment because they don't know what they're doing. You see that in a lot of films also with like aliens that are trying to be humans and stuff like that. But they avoided that cliche slash trope, which I highly appreciated. It mostly stayed the storyline through and through, and they dropped a couple characters that you could tell were returning just because they put a lot of emphasis on them. There was this one character, his name escapes me, but he is the grandson of the woman who runs the hostel, that used to be her old like slavery home in the 1800s, which I think is extremely unrealistic, but hey, you can't fight that. And you could just tell that he's going to be like a recurring character because the second he stepped on screen, the music changed. He didn't really act like a human being. He like posed in every single shot he was in, and he was like threatening strangers, but in a jokative manner that's supposed to be like, oh, he's a rascal, but he's lighthearted. And then later on, they had another emphasis on him again, where the grandmother's just saying good morning to him, and I don't know, he has like this bizarre look on his face, and you see that transition in the music again. And there was another character that you could tell could be a recurring character because, once again, there was an emphasis on them in the show. There's literally just a scene where they don't even change the music, but she just rides in on a bike, and they slowly follow her through the entrance, through the courtyard, to parking her bike, to walking into her hallway, which I felt wasn't necessarily necessary, but, I mean, at least they're establishing their characters ahead. Um, and it ended on a cliffhanger that I want to draw more. The girl that she came into the future to find, she found, but then that girl was immediately murdered. So it's left on a cliffhanger where she bumps into another guy that she met previously in the episode, and then the cops that's generally been following her since she got to modern times, Um, so it's a pretty strong beginning. Um, it's a very calm show, which, I have nothing against, but it's not necessarily a draw for me. Then El Marginal, I was expecting not to like it. I hate crime dramas. Like Law and Order SVU is pretty much the only crime show that I watch. But I like that this is in Buenos Aires, so I know nothing about their judicial system over there, but the prison's essentially its own city. With inside the walls of the prison, they call it the villa, um, and I don't know. There was like they captured the atmosphere so good. I don't know if they actually recorded in a genuine like prison or if they based it off of an old prison, but it was. Sorry, I have a phone call. But yeah, no, it was pretty good. I wasn't expecting the level of maturity of the show. It is very much rated M or adult or whatever rating is for TV shows. Uh, and I wasn't expecting that until like they just like full on like without any hesitancy just blew out the F word, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's one of those true to nature shows. But there's a there's a large attempt to stylize certain sequences, and you could see it, but they don't. It's like they're dipping into multiple buckets without really going full blown into it, so you don't get a signature of the director and his style. It's more so that he has a lot of ideas, but he doesn't know how to cohesively bring them together to make it his own. Um, like for example, it starts off with a shaky cam action sequence with some parkour and a lot of high energy and the camera moving everywhere and to reflect the chaos of it. But then in the middle of it, there's just this moment where he's just sprinting down a road and the shaky cam just stops. And then there's a moment where like you see a cop slowly catching up to him. So I was like, oh, okay. So they're gonna show like an abrupt cut of the the cop catching him. But that wasn't the case. Then it cuts back to a scene where he gets cornered in an alley from like 3 different angles, and it goes back to shaky cam. And then there's other moments where like they want to show the characters are either doing something intentionally or falling into a ploy, so that way we know that they're not getting tricked, and they'll just have this moment where they just hyper zoom in on the characters' faces. And they do that a lot more than the action sequences, because in any other sequence after that where there was an action sequence, there wasn't shaky cam. um, but like the angles in which they did it, and sometimes they would blur out the background, sometimes they won't, sometimes they would blur the effects so much to the point where the circle around their head was blurred, sometimes they wouldn't blur anything and it would just be hyper focused and you could see their pores and stuff like that. So I feel that the director has a lot of ideas and is a visual based artist, but he's still in the process of gaining who he is. It'd be interesting to see that be more refined as the series go on. I want to look into who the director is to see, if he has like an iconography to his work. Um, Now, mind you, none of this stuff is revolutionary, uh, but there's an activeness. There's an attempt to try and to make better, which I greatly appreciate because Netflix is starting to get the reputation for accepting any show that will basically throw them a premise. So it's nice to see a show with a lot of effort put into it, even for a Netflix show. I hope this was on like a major channel and that the people who made it did get like a lot of money out of it because it's so good. Um, but I'm gonna keep watching El Marginale. No, El Marginal. I don't know. I keep saying Marginale. Um, Siempre Bruja. I don't know if I'm gonna keep watching it. It's an interesting premise, but like El Marinale, El Marginal completely blew it out of the water. So I don't know. We'll see where that goes, but I'm probably gonna watch out of all of El Marginal. All right, y'all have a good night.